Hello and welcome to Scuba with Steve. I'm Steve, and today we're talking about pre-dive safety checks for Sidemount divers in cave in Mexico. My pre-dive checks here in Mexico have 5 different steps. They always go in the same order and they always have the same components. Step number 1 is going to be a bubble check. We want to make sure as a team that no one has any bubbles. To do a team bubble check, you're going to start with one diver saying, okay, you watch me for bubbles, you're on the surface, inflated. You're going to raise your arms just out of the water, and that diver is going to turn 360 degrees in the same place while the other diver looks at them from head to toe. That diver is looking for bubbles in the common places, but everywhere at the same time. Common places would be the swivel where the SPG meets the high pressure hose, anywhere around the first stage, whether that's internal din or external din, or just the first stage itself, and also just any hoses. Simultaneously, if the diver is very clicked on and the other diver is moving around very slowly, the diver checking can watch that diver and just make sure are all of their cables routed correctly, is everything plugged in. The other diver can just be doing an overall glance of that first diver while checking for bubbles at the same time. Once every member in the team has been checked for bubbles and you've fixed any bubbles you had, or there are no bubbles at all, you can move on to the flow check. In the flow check, we're gonna make sure as Sidemount divers that every single valve is fully open. I usually start with my left-hand tank. So I go around in a circle and I say, hey team, my left tank is all the way open. From my left tank, I have my short hose. I will then place the short hose in my mouth, put it in the water, and I will breathe. I'll then say my short hose is breathing. After that, the whole team will say check, because they're checking that at the same time. I'll also say from my left is my wing inflate. I'll check that it's inflating and deflating. Some people here will also check that the dump valve is operational. After that, I move on to my right tank. I say to my team, my right tank is all the way open. If my right tank is all the way open, I will then take my long hose regulator. I'll say my long hose, unclip, put it in the water, out. My long hose is breathing. The whole team will say breathing or check. I will then take my long hose and I'll do a short modified little deploy, and I'll make sure that my long hose can deploy, and I'll prove that to the team. The whole team will do the same. I'll then take it back on and clip it. Then I will say for the dry suit divers in the team, my dry suit hose is going over my long hose, AKA my long hose is between me and my dry suit hose. It seems a little weird to have the long hose underneath the dry suit hose, but if it is underneath the dry suit hose, when you rotate in an out of gas situation, when you rotate the first stage, it will be fully deployable. Steve Davis just did an entire video on this. I'll throw the link in the description. After I've checked the long hose, made sure it's under the dry suit hose, I will then take a moment and check the dry suit hose itself. Does the dry suit inflate, deflate? Team will check, inflate, deflate, those of them who are wearing dry suits. After bubble checks and flow check, next thing we do is we do an equipment match. In an equipment match, we go head to toe, talk about all of our secondary equipment. We're talking about lights, backup lights, spools, reels, computers, anything that isn't a reg or attached to the tank, really. I'm just making sure that I know where all of my team's equipment is, they know where all of my equipment is, and we're ensuring that everything in the team is working. This video is not about talking about the perfect place to put each of your individual secondary equipment items. I'm gonna talk about where my stuff is placed. If you don't put all of your secondary equipment in the same place, we can still be friends. It's okay to have your backup light in a different place than my backup light is. Working my way from the head down, the first thing you'll come across is the shoulder straps on your harness. For me, I have a cutting device on my right-hand side. So I'll say, team, I have a cutting device on my right-hand side. Everyone else will either say check, as in they have the same thing in the same place, or they'll say I have nothing there, or they'll say mine is on my left, maybe, because we're talking about our shoulders at the same time. After my shoulders, I go down to my D-rings. I'll say, all right, team, on my left D-ring is at the moment my primary light and my navigation kit. Primary light, check it, is working in the water. Navigation kit, I'll remove and pass it around the team, letting everyone see what my navigation kit looks like. The whole team will check their primary lights, then we move over to the right D-ring. On my right D-ring, I have nothing besides my long hose. Working my way down, next thing I come across is my arms. My left arm, completely clean. My right arm, I have a computer with the correct gases plugged in and a cutting device. Super important to make sure that your computer has the correct gas and only the correct gas plugged in. Working my way down, the next thing I'll come across is my waist strap. I have nothing on my waist strap besides my tanks. Going down on my front, I have my 2 dry suit pockets. In my left dry suit pocket, I typically have my backup mask. In my right dry suit pocket, I'll typically have my wet notes. And at this point, I'll ask everyone in the team, what do you have in your pockets? Dry suit or tech shorts or whatever they happen to have. If my team has backup lights in those pockets, now would be the correct time to check those. Once I've checked everything on the front and in my pockets, then I move to my backside. On my backside, I've got my butt pouch. Inside of my butt pouch, I keep both of my backup lights. In the main pocket, I also keep a safety spool in the back pocket. In the smaller pocket in the front, I typically will keep some zip ties, some extra tank bungee, a flathead screwdriver, and a Terran multi-tool. As I'm checking that butt pouch, I'll actually pull it around in front of me, clip it off, pull out both of my backup lights and check them before every single dive. Lights fail when you don't check them. It's like a thing. After I've put my butt pouch back in place, then I check that I have the correct number of jump spools on my butt D-ring, and I check that I have a reel or anything else that I might need for that dive. Probably for me that's extra is gonna be living on my butt D-ring. After I've gone through everything on me, I'll typically ask the team, is there any other accessory or secondary equipment that we have not talked about? The fourth thing on my list that I check every single time is what we call limitations. The limitations for the dive. Typically, these look like time, depth, and gas. Time can be a limiting factor on a dive, so it's one of the first things we talk about. Is the sun going down in 2 hours? Do we want to limit our dive time so that we can be on the highway when the sun goes down and not driving through the jungle? Say maybe we turn at 60 minutes because you've never turned past 45 minutes before. Depth is the next limiting factor. It will definitely affect time. Shallow dive, long dive, deeper dive, maybe a little shorter. Also, decompression obligations. With the gases we have, how much decompression is the team willing to rack up? Last but not least is gas. Gas, as a team, we need to all see how much gas everyone has access to, and then determine how much penetration gas we should all use, which should be an identical number for all three, and then establish what everyone's turn pressures should be at the turn. It's at this point that I say the same thing every single time. Any diver can call or turn any dive at any point for any reason. Once everything else has been checked, our bubble check, our flow check, our equipment match, and our limitations, last thing we do is a pre-dive visualization. How in-depth your pre-dive visualization is determined mostly by how experienced everyone is and how many days you've been diving with them or how familiar with this diver you are. In cave diving, pre-dive visualizations can be as simple as saying, okay, we're gonna go on the main line, we're gonna go T left, jump right, T right, and another jump left. And then on the way out, we'll turn around, it'll be like this. I'll be diver number 1, you'll be diver number 2, off we go. If I was doing something where I was very comfortable with the diver and the other diver was a very experienced diver and we'd already done 10 days of diving together, it could be something that simple. If I'm diving with someone less experienced, my pre-dive visualization will most likely be much longer. Be talking about exactly what the jump will look like, making sure the common mistakes people make at this dive site, and going really in depth into all of the nitty-gritty. How far in depth you go in your visualization is up to you. The important thing is that the pre-dive visualization comes last, because this is the thing I want the most fresh in everyone's mind. We all know the directions we're gonna go to get to whatever point we're aiming at on the dive. One big takeaway from this video for you guys is that everything I've gone over is how Steve normally does it. This does not have to be the way that you do it, but I feel like a pre-dive check should probably cover these 5 topics. How in depth you go depends on you. Everyone, thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned something. Please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Let me know what video you want to see next. As always, guys, be safe, go have fun, and do something cool.